I grew up in an Israeli family. My parents left Israel when I was 4 years old. I'm the youngest of four girls. And we moved to New York. When we got to New York, we moved to Brooklyn. And right away, very, very quickly, without even realizing so much that life is about to change completely than it ever was before, I went to public school. Are Chiloni, Israeli, also grew up very, very secular. My father grew up in Ma'abarot, when the beginning of Israel, the beginning of the time here in Israel, right when they were coming in, he grew up in these metal tents. That's how he grew up until his father died when he was 6 years old, and then he had to go to a Bet Tomim, an orphanage, and that's where he grew up, there in the orphanage. And my mother came to Israel, born in Israel to Holocaust survivor parents who went through a lot to get here. And also just clueless about where we come from, who we are, what it means, any of it, and just surviving, just struggling, both of them. And when I was 4 years old, the time came to really move to the Golden Medina. To go to Medina, the opportunity came, and we left. And when I got there, and I went to public school, and all of my classmates and everyone around me were not Jewish for sure, but not white. I was the only white girl in the classroom. I realized that I'm different. And ever since I was a very, very little girl, I remember thinking, I'm so different. I'm so different than anyone I'm around. Wherever I'm a part of, I'm just so different. I always stand out. And I got used to that. So I grew up in this black neighborhood in the hood. All my friends were black. And I loved it. It was great. And then one day, I was in fourth grade. So I started off in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. It was great. I had my friends. It was all wonderful. I knew the school. I knew the teachers. I was very familiar. I was already, within the culture and the slang and the hood. My parents had no idea that they were moving to the hood. My parents were complete immigrants, Israelis, didn't know where to even start. Really starting just imagine moving to China and just figuring out where the mailbox is. That's how it was. We didn't know a word of English, anything. Real immigrants. And in fourth grade, my miracle began. My miracle really, really began long before I was even born, but that's for another time. And it was in the middle of the school year. The way it worked in the schoolyard, in the school building, was that there was a big yard outside of the schoolyard. There's a big yard, and all the kids would have to line up in the yard with their classmates in double file lines, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, with their fingers in their mouth. And the teacher would walk around and she would say, okay, third grade, you're lined up so nicely, go inside. Okay, second grade, you lined up beautiful, go inside. And every day this happened. So whether it was fall, winter, summer, spring, we were out there in the courtyard with our fingers in our mouth, double file line, until the teacher would walk around and send us inside. Regular morning, nothing different. I went into the courtyard. I was in the middle of fourth grade. I walk in with my lunchbox. It was like a hot pink lunchbox. I walk in with it. I'm all excited to go to school. And my three best friends were waiting for me on the side. It was like a dugout. There was like a dugout there, and they were waiting for me there. And when I walked in, my Israeli name is Dorit. So they didn't say Dorit. They said Dorit. Hey, yo, Dorit, come over here. We're over here. And I walked up to them, and before I knew it, things were being said. I didn't understand so much what was being said. It was very, very innocent. I didn't know about anti-Semitism. I didn't know that people didn't like the Jews. I didn't know anything like that. I knew that, but beyond the fact that I was Jewish and beyond the fact that we spoke in Hebrew in our house, there was really no religious association. There was no talk of God. There was none of that. So it didn't really mean anything to me. They ate pepperoni pizza, I ate pepperoni pizza. Whatever they did, I did. There was no difference. So that morning, when all of a sudden there was some kind of talk about Jews, something people were saying Jew, I was very confused. And before I knew it, two girls these were my best friends. These were friends of mine that we spent every moment together. We were always in each other's houses. We were spent years together. We grew up together. And I don't know, till this day, I can't tell you why and what made them do that or what happened there, but two of them held my hands behind my back. One of them held my ankles together really, really tightly. And they threw me down on the ground and they took bags of potato chips, like old potato chip bags and soda cans and, just garbage from the garbage can and all around. And they started shoving it in my mouth and in my shirt and kicking me in the ribs. And it was a fight. I was getting beat up because I was Jewish, and I couldn't believe it because it happened so fast. And everyone gathered around and was just saying, fight, 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 fight. And I was on the ground. And after the whole thing was over, I got up, and on my way down, I cut my elbow. So I still was gushing blood. I still have my scar. I call it my Jew scar. Okay, let me see if I could see it here on the camera. I have a scar here. I call it my Jew scar. And went up to my teacher, and I was crying, and I was dirty, and I was bleeding, and I walked up to her, and I said, I was just beat up, and I remember seeing her look straight up. I was down there, look straight ahead and say, just go wash yourself off. And I remember looking at her and thinking, you don't care about me. And I just left. I walked outside the courtyard. I walked home sobbing. I wasn't allowed to walk home. It wasn't a safe neighborhood, but I just walked home and running home, feeling like, this is not fair. Why did this have to happen to me? These are my best friends. These are my closest people. Why did they do this to me? Why did they betray me? How come this happened to me? Why does it, like that? Okay, if I knew that if I had any kind of access to God at that time, or I knew about him, then I would have a lot of angry things to say to him as well. So I was very upset. And after that episode, I never went back to that school. I never stepped foot again in that school. My parents found me a Jewish school to go to. I went there in the middle of 4th grade, not knowing a thing. I spoke the language, but I didn't read or write. And the mentality that I was coming with was very, very different from a Jewish school. The language, the way I grew up there, the way I met, everything that I was like a little black girl in a white girl's body. Basically, I had a lot of anger, attitude, always one-upping people, cursing, and I walked into this Jewish school. The principal takes one look at me, and she says, "You're from public school." So I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And she said, "All right, we're gonna have an interview." And my mother tells me, she says to me, you have to be careful because you might screw this up. So don't screw this up. I don't know if she's going to accept you. They're probably not going to accept you. and thinking that, Jewish schools are a certain way and they accept certain kids. So I went in for this interview. Me and my mother are sitting there, and she says to me, okay. She looks at me and she says, okay, so Devorah, yeah? Mm-hmm. She says, okay. So tell me a little about yourself. So I told a little bit myself. Okay, can I have you read here for me? Do you mind reading this passage right here? Just start from the beginning right there, okay? So I read English and I spoke in English, but my Hebrew accent was so thick. So I started reading, and the girl went to the store. If you know anything about Israelis, it's all about the She went to the store and she got her mother milk. So she said, okay, good. Let's read some Hebrew. Let's read some Hebrew text. I said, I don't know how to read in Hebrew. I'm sorry. She said, okay, so you know what? Let's put away the reading. Let me ask you a question. Tell me, what's the difference between Purim and Halloween? I said, the difference between, I know, the difference between Purim and Halloween is that on Halloween you trick or treat, and on Purim you only treat. So she said, I hear. Okay, and the whole time she's giving my mother a dirty look, so my mother's not looking at her. She's just looking down. She said, so tell us, what do you do on Yom Kippur? What happens on Yom Kippur? I said, well, on Yom Kippur, because listen, I'm coming from a very secular family. So on Yom Kippur, I don't know that people are fasting. If some people are fasting, some people are not fasting. It's a kind of like a regular day. The TV's not on. Okay, the TV's for sure not on. Everyone's reading the newspaper, the Israeli newspaper. Now, if you know anything about Israelis, it's all about the newspaper. It's all about the news. Okay, politics. And so that's what they did. So every Yom Kippur, the whole family would get together. There would be a stack of newspapers. Everybody would be reading newspapers, talking politics. So I said, Yom Kippur is a family bonding day. I didn't know people were fasting. I said, Yom Kippur is a family bonding day. Everyone gets together. You read newspapers. You have a meal. It's great. So the principal looks at my mother again. She gives her a really dirty look this time. And my mother is burying her head. And she said, at some point, she said to me, you know, I have to think about this now. She's wearing a wig, and this was the first time I ever saw anyone with a wig. Okay, I didn't know she was wearing a wig. And so she's sitting there like this, thinking, okay? And I'm noticing that her head is moving back and forth, but I'm thinking maybe she's just going like this, right? And she's sitting there thinking, and out of nowhere, she pulls down her wig to her nose. She scratches her nose with her wig, and then she puts it back up. And I flipped out. Like, oh my God, Ima, did you see that? Wow, because her scalp moved down to her nose and she put it back up, and it was a very frightening experience. I've never seen a wig before. I've never seen it do that. I didn't know she was wearing a wig, so it was a very, very frightening experience. I flipped out. She said, you know what, don't call us, we'll call you, and that was the end of that interview. We left. My mother said, you're not getting in, there's no way. She's not accepting you. I said, okay. We went to this other school. It was a reform school. We walk in. We didn't know reform, Orthodox, Reconstruction. We didn't know conservative. We didn't know any of that stuff. We just knew Jewish, okay? And so we went to this other Jewish school. We walk in. They have this like beautiful chandelier and stunning school. The whole place is made out of marble and gold. It was like something out of this storybook. All the kids were walking hand in hand to the pool. They had a towel over their arms. They had a pool in the school building. It was amazing. We walk in. The principal takes one look at me. The rabbi takes one look at me. He squeezes my cheeks. He says, "Of course you're welcome here. We would love to have you." He didn't ask me my name. He didn't ask me a question. He didn't ask me to read. He said, "Of course we would love to have you here. Bring her over tomorrow morning." That night, my parents are speaking in the kitchen, and I overhear my father telling my mother, listen, this is going to be hard. I don't know how we're going to do this. I need to keep both my jobs, but if she's going to go to that school all the way to the other side of town, then it's going to be complicated for us. I'm going to have to give up one of my jobs. Now, my parents were not doing well in the beginning when we got to the States. It was like bad, really bad. It was like pots of water with beans kind of thing. And he had to give up his second job because I had to go to that school. Anyway, the phone rings. I'm not making any of this up. Listen to this. The phone rings. I answer because I was the only English-speaking girl in the house, basically. Hi. Yeah. Hi, did we reach the Sisso family? Yep. Can I speak to your mom? My mother doesn't speak English. You could talk to me. Okay. We just wanted to let you know that, hold on one second. What? Tomorrow? New Jersey. Okay. We just wanted to let you know that a girl, one of our fourth graders, she's leaving our school tomorrow. They're moving to New Jersey. They just let us know about this right now. If you would like to join the fourth grade class, you are welcome to come in the morning. The school that I had the interview for originally, it was more of like the Orthodox school. It was the Orthodox school. It was actually a kiruv school. It was a school where all the kids were not religious and all the teachers were religious. It was an Orthodox school. And they had called me because a girl that day pulled out. Her family decided that they're moving to Jersey and there was room for me. And they tell me this. Now I'm thinking, I don't want to go to that school. I want to go to the other school. I want to go to school with the pool and the chandeliers and the people and the happy kids and all of that. I don't want to go to school with the long skirts and like every time you walk into this like, you know, Orthodox school, every time you walk in, it was just like a, you know, it was a privately funded school. So every time you walk in and the door would slam behind you, a little bit of the ceiling would fall on your head. That was the kind of school. You got what I'm saying? You got the picture, okay? It was a whole different world. This was like going to live in like the hills and like Beverly Hills, and this was going to live in like the slums kind of thing. So I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do? Do I tell my parents? Because I just heard my parents have this conversation. The first school, the Orthodox school, is literally 2 minutes from my house. My father has to just drive for 2 minutes, drop me off, and continue. And I felt like obviously, and the other school was about 45 minutes to an hour away. So I walk into the kitchen and tell my parents, I got into the first school. They accepted me. You see, they love me. And I'm going to go to that school. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to give up your job. They were very happy. It was the next day. I walk into school. I am a complete stranger to anything that has to do with Judaism, Jews, Hebrew, wigs, black hats, kosher, egg salad, gefilte fish. Total stranger. I don't know anything that's happening there. So I walk into this what feels to me a war zone. Okay, and I gotta know my stuff because there's so much going on here. I don't know what's going on here. I have to be the cool girl from public school. I'm Israeli. I have to play my act well. I had a whole thing planned out. I'm in 4th grade. Okay, so just understand where it's coming from. So someone didn't speak to someone, and they put me in the regular Hebrew classroom. Now, walking into a regular Hebrew classroom, a 4th grade classroom, for me at the time where I didn't even know Aleph Bet, was like you walking into advanced Chinese or advanced. That's how it felt. Even though I spoke the language, but they all spoke it with the American, like Shabbos. And we didn't say Shabbos. We say Shabbat. Right? So the way they spoke and the way we spoke was like 2 different languages. That's how I heard it. I heard it 2 different Hebrews. It wasn't the same thing. Anyway, I walk into the classroom. All the kids are looking at me. I'm the new girl that walks in the middle of the 4th grade year. I walk in. The whole class looks at me. There were about 40 kids, girls, boys in this 4th grade classroom. The teacher puts me right in front of her, the first student, first aisle, first row. I'm there. Now, the entire time they're learning Chumash, they're learning Navi, they're learning Halakha, they're learning all this stuff on the board, Rashi, I don't know what's flying, okay? Now I'm thinking she's saying, the teacher says, okay, take out your Chumash. I've never heard the word in my life. I don't even know what she wants us to take out. It could be a pencil for all I know. I don't know what she's saying, okay? And she says, and I'm trying very, very hard, which is really difficult because she's standing right here. She's standing right here. You know, the teacher leans against your desk and she talks right in front of you and you could even smell her. That's how close she is. That's where she was for 3 hours, right on top of me. And so the whole time I'm thinking, I'm having massive anxiety, thinking if she calls on me, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm like, everyone's going to laugh. It's my first day. My reputation is out the window. I'm done. And so I'm thinking, what do I do? So first of all, I completely dodge her, make believe she's not even there. Second of all, I am cleaning this desk, Pesach cleaning this desk. Okay, this desk has been here from the 60s. Okay, there's glue stuck, there's gum stuck to the bottom of it from literally from the 60s, from kids that have used it. And I'm Pesach cleaning it. It's never been cleaner. By the time the session is over, she didn't call on me. I felt like someone had just taken a load off of me. I was sweating. That's how nervous I was. And the lunch walks in. The lunch man with the lunch, a tray of lunch, chicken, rice, coleslaw, orange juice, bread. He walks in. He puts it on the teacher's desk. And I get all excited because I know how to eat. I actually know how to do this. It's not a Jewish thing. I mean, it is, but anyway, so she hands it out. She fills up the plate, chicken, coleslaw, rice, bread, juice, and I'm the first girl to get because I'm the first girl in the first seat in the first row. So I'm the first girl. So what do you do when someone puts a plate of food in front of you? What do? You eat. Thank you, Sylvia. You eat. So that's what I did. I just dug right in and I started eating. But I was eating. You know when you eat like Ben and Jerry's, like you eat like anxiety. You eat like you don't even taste the food. You're just eating and eating and eating and eating and eating. So I was in the food. I was like this, like that. Okay. And I was in my plate eating this chicken and coleslaw with all of the fire inside of me. And she says, there's silence in the classroom all of a sudden. Couldn't hear a pin drop. And so I pick my head up out of my chicken and I look at her and I look around and she's staring at me. Miss Sisso. I look at her and I'm like, yeah. And she says, what are you doing? And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. I knew that you have to say, I'm sorry and you're right. That's what I knew in my head. I had those 2 things memorized. Sorry, you're right. So I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm wrong. I'm sorry. You're right. And she says to me, in this school, we Us, we do not eat until we wash. Do you hear that? We do not eat until we wash. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm looking at her and thinking, this woman is insane. This place is crazy. And I'm thinking, of course not. I'm so sorry. I'm really, you're right. I'm so sorry. And she says, never, ever do that again. I said, I will never, ever eat before I wash. I got it. And I'm thinking in my head, what am I washing? What am I washing? What am I washing? I could not figure out what to wash. My feet. I didn't know what kind of religion. I didn't know what they were saying. I just knew the washing thing was important. Anyway, row number 1 goes to wash. She dismisses us. I go into the bathroom. For the first time in my entire life, I see this overgrown cup with 2 handles that's gray, and it has like this mold on the bottom of the cup. Okay, and all the kids, they all run to the bathroom and they grab the cup and they fill it up with so much passion. Okay, they're filling up this cup and they're passing it to the other hand and they're splashing and splashing, and I'm just standing on the side watching the madness. Okay, what seems to me like madness. And they finish, they walk out the bathroom, and then on top of their lungs with the veins that were sticking outside of their neck, and they were screaming, Baruch Hashem Kiddushanu, and I'm stunned. Okay, and they're all doing this, and she keeps releasing another row, and another go wash, another row go wash, and they're all washing, and they're all screaming, and I don't know what is going on. I just see that there's some kind of ritual happening. Okay, this is a ritual. And I'm the last one to go in to wash because I wanted everyone to walk out. I didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know whatever. So they all left. I took the cup. No, I didn't take the cup. I'm sorry. They all left. And I thought they were insane because they were using this disgusting cup. I looked at the cup. It was moldy on the bottom. It was just, no. So I took my soap. I started washing my hands. Okay, because I got that you have to wash your hands. So I'm washing my hands with my soap and whatever. And I walk out and I must have said something. When I walked out and said something, this girl was standing there. This girl from my class. She was standing there and she goes like this. This is my first time being exposed to this, my friends. Ready? We think it's normal, but it's really not normal. It's not normal. Listen. She goes like this. No. 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 I said to her, why are you barking at me? And she says, no. Okay, just put your mind, just go back for a second without knowing what new oohs and ahs are. You've never heard of it before. And all of a sudden she's just barking at me to go back and wash my hands again because I had spoken. And she's nooing and ahing and no, okay. And so I get what she wants. I walk in, I take the cup, and I do what she wants me to do. And then I walk out and I'm silent. And she has this like big nachas smile on her face. Like I just made her life, okay? I walk back into the classroom, dizzy from like, ma kore, okay? Walk into the classroom. Everyone is holding their bread for dear life. And the teacher goes, and then they all start screaming, and I am just watching. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, and she says, Amen. And then they all eat their food, and I am thinking that I'm going to report this place. And recess time comes. Now, there was no uniform. The school was wear a skirt, wear a shirt. That morning, we were in a rush. And my mother said to me, you have to put on a skirt and a long sleeve shirt. I was like, that's nice, because I don't own any skirts and long sleeve shirts. But okay. So I walk into my classroom, my closet, and I'm looking at all my stuff, and I have one skirt. And the only skirt I have is a hot orange mini skirt. So I put on the skirt. I put on this tiny little belt, okay, which was the skirt. I put it on, and I was like, long sleeve shirt. I don't have any shirt that covers my elbows. I don't know what to use. It was summer. It was like the beginning of the school year. It was the middle of the school year, but I still had no clothes that were appropriate. It was either opened or So I went to my father's closet and I got a t-shirt, one of those Hanes t-shirt, the extra large kinds that they'll for sure get to my elbows. They did, they got my elbows, but they were also falling off my shoulders. And it was just like a long white dress ghost kind of thing. I walked to school, put on my shoes and I went to school. And during recess, everyone gathered up around me and they were like, "You are the girl from public school? The Israeli one?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm so cool." And they said, "Can you teach us what you do in public school?" Because all these like yeshiva kids, they were all dying to know what's going on in public school. So I said, "Well, in public school, we play this game. It's called Girls Catch Boys. The way it's going to go is like this. The girls' team is going to catch the boys' team. Every girl is assigned a boy. You go, you catch him. When you get him, you say, 'Got him.' Good?" And they were like, "Wow, you're like so amazing. Thank you." So on your mark, get ready, get set, go. The girls start running after the boys, and now they're all like these well-trained, cute Jewish girls that are like, "Maishi, you're so strong, you're so fast, I can't catch you," okay? And I was like the Terminator. I walked up to this kid, I basically walked up to him, grabbed him by the shirt, slammed him on the floor, stepped on him, and I said, "I got one!" And I turn around and I see that my whole class, they're all lined up against the wall like this, like that. And one of my friends, who I'm still friends with till today, she goes to me, so I turn around and I see that this very scary looking teacher is standing there pointing at me like this, right? And I'm standing on top of this kid. I'm standing on top of him. I have 2 feet on top of him, okay? 2 feet on top because I have to make sure he doesn't go anywhere, that I got him. And she says, "Come here." So I get up I step off this boy, and I walk up to her, and she says to me, "Excuse me, young lady, where's your skirt?" I said, "My what?" And she said, "Your skirt, where is it?" I said, "I'm wearing it." And she said, "You are?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "I don't see it." I said, "Well, it's your problem." So she said, "If you don't pull down that skirt," and then the bag of skirts in the principal's office that's moldy, that were like donated from the 12th graders from 70 years ago, that they put it in the principal's office, and I knew about that bag. I don't know how intuitively I knew what she meant when she said the bag in the principal's office. I said, no, I got it." She said, "If you don't pull down that skirt, I'm going to get you one. I'm gonna do this." And I start pulling down this was the whole of the skirt, okay? So there's not much you could do with it. So I'm pulling down and yanking it down. I'm trying to make it get to my knees, but there's not a chance, not even close. And by the time this whole episode was over, I had the elastic wrapped around my thighs, so tight, and I walked around like a robot the whole day with my feet stuck together. And that was day 1 of yeshiva. 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. 7th grade, we go on a Shabbaton. All these years, the second I get off the school bus, my skirt goes flying off of me. I have my shorts underneath. I cannot stand skirts. I cannot stand basically anything that has to do with Judaism. Like, it's nice. I had a nice time in school. I loved school. It was great. But I had no patience for anything that had to do with prayer or anything like that. All my teachers were pretty lame. They were not exciting. They were not, they didn't fill me up with any kind of inspiration. And that was that. 7th grade came around and we had a new teacher. And this new teacher walked in with something that we've never experienced before from anyone else. This passion and this fire for Torah, for teaching us. And the fact that she was so simple and like one of the boys, and she treated us like we were an equal almost, but still, because she was so respectful of us, she was able to teach us so much and get into us in such a real way. She made a Shabbaton. It was our first Shabbos in Flatbush. I went away for Shabbos, and I remember coming back feeling like, I don't want this anymore. I remember walking into my house with this feeling in my stomach. This feeling didn't leave me for a few years, for about 6 or 7 years. Every single time I would come home from Shabbos, from a Shabbaton, I would have the same feeling in my stomach of, I don't want to do this. I want God. It was such a strange experience because I was a little girl. I was in 7th grade, and I couldn't explain it, not even to myself. We went away for this Shabbaton. It was Friday night. we're sitting on the couch. The mother comes down in this most beautiful house in Flatbush, like stunning. And it was, you know, that Friday night quiet, that peace when the men go to shul and you light the candles, that like, so we didn't know that existed. I didn't know that existed. And I sat there and I remember feeling, just getting chills. I had chills and chills the whole night, and seeing her light her candles, and then seeing them around the Shabbos table, and then seeing the interaction between the parents and the children, and like speaking to the children like they're almost like they're adults, and like, how are you feeling and what is going on with you? And all of these things that were happening in the Parsha and the lessons from the Parsha, and the being present, and not the running in that I was used to from home, right? Because when you don't have Shabbos to stop you, or you don't have something to stop you, then you just keep going, and you don't realize that you gather a certain amount of momentum that if you're not in action, and if you're not cleaning or cooking or running or going to the laundromat or working or, you know, fixing the beds, or if you're not doing something, that oftentimes people feel like, you know, I'm bored, or I have nothing to do, or, you know, what's my life about, or, you know, how do I fill up my time? Or it's almost like we become associated with ourselves as human doings as opposed to human beings. And all of a sudden that Shabbos, I experienced human beings of just being together and just being in this capsule of time. And I came home with the Shabbos. My parents were watching TV, and I said to them, Ima and Abba, I want to be religious. And they said, okay. So I saw that they weren't like, you know, they didn't really understand what that meant to me. But the world that I came from, that Shabbos, what I experienced that Shabbos, what I saw, what I felt, oh my goodness. It was so confusing because it was like, you know, you want to think that your family knows what's up. You want to think that you're coming from a stable background, like the way you're living your life is the right way to live. And I just needed to taste it, a drop on my tongue like that, and I needed to go back and get more. It was like heroin, you know. That's how it felt to me. And then coming back to a life of just like, you know, regular, felt so empty. And that's that feeling in my gut that I had. I went into my room, I took out all of my clothes, all my jeans, my tank tops, my shorts, my mini skirts, all of my stuff. I took it all out, and I walked into the kitchen, past my family when they were sitting and watching TV, and I put it in the garbage can. And they heard a loud thump, and I went back into my room, I got more clothes, and then my mother gets up and she's like, Matusa, what are you doing? I said, I'm throwing out my clothes. And she said, what? We just got them on Thursday. What are you doing? Why are you throwing out your clothes? I said, I want to tell you something. And she said, yeah. And I sat them down. And I said, Ima, Abba, I'm Haredi now. And they said, you're what? And I said, Haredi. I'm Haredi now. And they said, you're Haredi. I said, yes, black, white. That's what it's going to be. And they said, okay. You're not Haredi. My mother's like, are you gonna let her say that? And my father's like, it's Devorah. She just, it's phases. She'll get past it. And so they were banking on that. And it never happened that way. Those clothes ended up back in my closet at the end of that night. My mother was pulling them out of the garbage can. You're not becoming Haredi. What are you talking about? And she's folding them up. She's putting them back in my closet as that. I am becoming Haredi. And I'm taking it all out and throwing it back in the garbage. And my father's just like, can you guys, I just want to watch my program. Just move. And it was really insane. 7th grade, 8th grade. By the time 8th grade comes around, I am Shabbos observant fully. I am wearing skirts, socks. My parents would drive through Bar Park, and I would just look out the window, look at all these girls that come from religious homes, and they were my idols. They were like, I would drool every time I would see religious girls. And at home I was, you know, if by accident I would turn on the light on Shabbat, I would almost finish the whole Sefer Tehillim like that, Baal Tshuva, you know what I'm saying? So what about my sisters? My sisters all today, now that I'm 37 and not 12, all of my sisters are Shomer Shabbos. My parents are still not. but they all got to it from their own way. None of us did it together. Everyone did it. When I was becoming religious, I remember davening like this at home, and one of my sisters walking by me and going, "Stop shaking." Like anything that had to do with like something, it was just like, "Stop," right? But today they're all Shabbos observant. Everyone on their own level, everyone in their own way, but we all keep Shabbat, Chagim, Baruch Hashem, which is really, really, really not a given, because when you come from a very secular Israeli family, for every single, and your parents didn't do tshuva, your parents nothing, okay, and for every single one of the kids to become observant in their own way, on their own right, having nothing to do with the other one, is very, very strange, very not common. So I was the first one to be the trailblazer here, and everything that I brought into the house was, what, Maze, what now? Okay, so after me, it was already like, okay, yeah, we know about that. Like I remember my first Tisha B'Av, sitting on the floor and burning a piece of paper and making an egg and having a pizza and sitting on the floor, and my whole, it was like in the zoo. It was like, you know, when you stand and you look at the monkeys in the zoo, like in the cage, like that. The whole family was standing around me. I was sitting on the floor eating my ash and trying to cry with my egg. Okay, like you know, Tisha B'Av. And the whole family is like, what is she doing? Why is she eating burnt paper? She's insane. We lost her. Like that. Like everything that was different, that was never seen or done. Like taking my clothes for shotness. Shotness. What are you saying now? You know, like all of these very new things that they've never heard of. Don't even talk to me about Pesach. Don't even talk to me about like food and kosher and all of that. Anyway, I lost 20 pounds right when I became religious. I lost 20 pounds. I stopped eating my mother's food. I stopped eating at home. I became really, really, really thin. People were nervous about me. I didn't know that you were allowed to. I was also very nervous to tell anyone that I was doing this in private. I wasn't like, you know, telling anyone. For the first 6 months, I didn't tell anyone. I did it very, very privately. Not because I was embarrassed, but because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like I was embarrassed of myself, the way I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know when to stand up in shul, when to sit down in shul. I didn't know what a bracha to necessarily make. I didn't know a lot of things, and I just kept it quiet. Finally, in after 8th grade, I decided that I'm going to a bar park school. I'm going to be one of those girls. I'm going to look like them. I'm going to talk like them. I'm going to be friends with them. That's what I'm going to be like. And that's what happened. I got accepted to this Beis Yaakov, very, very, very religious Beis Yaakov school in Borough Park. And turns out I was the most religious girl in the classroom. I had a very hard time being there, because what was going on was that even though externally we all looked the same, I was going up. And the girls there who were born religious, never had to fight for it, never had to think about it. Father's a rabbi, mother's a rebbitzin, they have a million guests in their house, like that, you know, born up religious. So to them, when they would discover the 17 magazine, right, under their desks, they were reading 17 magazine, right? And oh my God, and lip glosses and weight loss tips and all these things. And I was coming from that world, and it was so not on my radar even. I was just so clear and focused on the fact that I wanted to get close to Hashem. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get more of this feeling, more of this heroin in my veins. That's what I wanted to get. I wanted to get more of this feeling. And I remember one time in class, one of the girls sitting next to me in Chumash, it was a Chumash class, and the teacher was so passionate, and she was amazing, and I was taking notes and crying. It was the first time I ever heard about this or about that, and just crying, taking notes. And I felt like every time I went to school, it was like an experience of a lifetime. That's how I felt, all this new, incredible information that is life-changing. That's not like what you learn in public school. Like, who cares it's nice. Christopher Columbus is amazing, and I'm so happy that he discovered America, but it doesn't have any effect on me or my life or my thoughts or my heart. And here the teacher's standing in front of the classroom and she's crying and she's reading this text that's like so deep and incredible about Rachel Imeinu and how she stopped Klaisel, all this stuff, and she jumps out of her grave and what she did in Avram and Yitzchak and all this stuff, and it's like, wow, right? And this girl elbows me next to me and she's like, look at this, and she's showing me like, I don't know, Britney Spears or something, and in the magazine. And I remember thinking like, what is wrong? Like, what happened to the drool that I was experiencing when I would see these girls out the window, and then I'm here amongst them, and like, what's happening? What's going on? I remember one time, not one time, but I remember the teacher walking out during davening, and you're not supposed to talk at a certain point during davening, and she drew a big crown on the board, and she wrote inside Hashem, and like meaning she's leaving the classroom, but God's still here, so. And the second she walked out of the classroom, everybody started talking. They all had like, in the Beisakov uniform, there's a button here, like a button-down shirt. So you have a button here, a button here, a button here, regular, right? But in the Beisakov shirt, you have a button here, and you have a button right underneath. Right underneath, you have a button that's called your tznius button. So when you open up that button, then your collarbones show, right? Then it's more of like this kind of thing. So your tznius button, make sure that the collarbones don't show. It holds it like this, okay? So the second she walked out of the classroom, everybody opened up their tznius buttons. I was like, what does it do with your tznius button? And there's talking and there's all this stuff, right? Obviously, it's human psychology. That's how we're wired. You always want something you can't have, or you don't know about, or something that sounds very exciting to you, that's unfamiliar to you. So we were going the opposite ways. And I remember standing on my chair, getting up in my chair and saying to them, shh, shh. And they all looked at me like I was the nerdiest, stupidest girl in the school. They all wore black tights and cool shoes. I wore white tube socks and sandals. Had no idea what was going on fashion-wise, none. And I clearly stood out. After 2 years in that school, I left because I wanted to be in a school with girls that were going up, that were also inspired and excited. And I went to another Beisakov school. I went to Beisakov Devorah Meir. I was there for 2 years. I finished 12th grade there. It was amazing. During recess, we would all get together in the hallways and have kumsitzes and sing, and like really we were all in that same. Even though they were coming from religious homes, but it was a different vibe. And after that, I went to Israel for a year. I came to study in seminary here for a year. I went, and then I came back for another year. I came back for 2 years. I studied here in Jerusalem. I fell in love with my country. And then I finally realized, oh, I'm not a weirdo like I always thought I was in New York. I always stood out. I was the immigrant. I was different. I got my license when I was 16. I drove up to Beisakov and I said, hey guys, let's go get ice cream. Let's go. I got a car. And everyone's like, no, we have to go help our mom. And like, I always felt like there was something very different about me. Aside from the fact that I'm also Sephardi, aside from the fact that I come from more of an ethnic background, aside from all the stuff that I've been through and all the struggles that I had to go through in order to make it happen, in order to make this happen. And then when I got to Israel, all of a sudden I was like, these are my people. This is where I come from. Oh, I always thought my parents were weirdos. Until I got to Israel, I realized that everyone's parents are weirdos. This is what it's like. This is what it is. Blonde hair, red lipstick, black leggings, tattoos, cigarettes. That's what everyone's parents look like here. And it was amazing. I mean, the non-religious ones, okay? And I stayed here for 2 years, went back home, and was teaching, doing a lot of speaking, doing a lot of that, but very, very hollow inside, feeling very, very empty, feeling like I can't live in New York. After I tasted Jerusalem for 2 years, I can't come back here. I'm doing so much good here. I'm working with girls that are off the derech. I have all my, I had 4 jobs. I was speaking, I was flying around the country, but I felt every time I was alone and the distractions were away, because this didn't exist back then. But every time there was no distraction, I felt that hollow hole that I can't be here anymore. I can't be here anymore. And I would cry. And then I got a phone call. It was somebody that knew me from Israel. And she called me and she said, I'm looking for a madricha. I'm looking for a girl that speaks Hebrew and English, a girl that could work with my girls. I have a house of girls it's a halfway house of girls that are off the derech. Their parents made aliyah. They didn't find themselves in the system. They fell through the cracks. They went off the derech. They're on the streets. We have a home for them that's funded by this amazing person in Muncie. And we want you to come and be a madricha. We think you would be perfect. I got the phone call I was waiting for. I ran to the kitchen. I told my mother. My mother was like, go, just go already. I can't look at you anymore. Every Friday I would be like, what's Shabbos in America? What is it? It's nothing. And so finally the phone call came. I got on the airplane, 22 years old, and I left America. I left America. I left it all behind. Came to Israel, made Aliyah, went to be a madricha in his home, learned a thing or two about drugs, the streets, police, girls, boys, learned a thing or two. I was coming from, even though I was coming from a secular home, I was very, very sheltered. I became religious when I was 12, and I made sure to stay sheltered. I made sure to disconnect myself from every program that I ever watched before. I really, really threw myself into the books. I threw myself into the books. I threw myself into spirituality because I am a very, very spiritual person. And it was like finally, it's almost like giving someone a drink after a very, very long time of not drinking. That's what it felt like. And everything else that the world had to offer was very, didn't speak to me at all. Nothing, didn't touch me. So here, walking into this home for girls, and the language, and the dress, and the smoking, and the everything it was very intense. I was there for a year and a half. I learned a lot. I changed a lot from being there in a good way. And I moved on. I was teaching in seminaries. I was working in different organizations. And at the age of 26, I found my sweetheart, and I got married. And I was 26. I was dating from when I was 20. I went out with over 100 guys. That was hard. I stopped counting at 100. It's a lot of guys, okay? Give me some, look at me, give me some warmth. Anyway, so I found my man, and we got married, on Kever David in the old city, and it was beautiful and magical, and 26 years old, everyone flew in, and it was amazing. 2 months later, I'm pregnant. I am this newly, like, what? How did this happen so fast? 8 months ago, I was begging at the hotel for God to send me the man. 8 months later, I'm sitting on my new job with my new belly, my new wig, and I am all, kala. I'm a kala. And I'm there, and 7 months in, I get a phone call. Hello? Hi, מתקשרים, we're calling from your doctor's office. Yes, how can I help you? חכי רגע, 1 minute, she says. חני, רגע, אני באה, את יוצאת לקפה? רגע. Honey, I'm coming with you. You're going out for coffee? I'm coming. Wait for a minute. טוב, את שומעת? I said, yeah. She's listening? I said, yeah. And she said, the doctor just called me to tell you that you have CMV, okay? I said, okay, what is it? I don't know. I can't help you. Honey, rega, אני באה. I'm coming. Okay, I gotta go. Can I talk to the doctor? No. So what do you do when someone tells you that you have something? You Google it. So I'm like, okay, CMV during pregnancy. And I'm sitting in my job, and I'm reading. And I thought in those moments, everything stopped. Because I'm reading that women that are pregnant, that get CMV, which is a virus, the likelihood of their babies being born with holes in their heart, blind, holes in their brain, are very, 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 very high. Most of the time they come out very sick, these babies. And I'm looking at my tummy and I'm thinking, what? No, not me. There's no way. And I remember walking out of the office. I grabbed my keys, I took my phone, and I started walking. I walked for 2 hours. And I was yelling at him, I did everything for you. Everything I did for you. I gave it all up for you. I gave it all up. I did everything. I didn't eat. I didn't stay home for Shabbos. Every single week I would find myself in another person's basement, keeping Shabbos by another family's house. I was so good. I cared so much. I spoke from when I was 14 years old. I was speaking and helping girls where all my friends were going bowling and they were going shopping. I was speaking and helping girls and giving people inspiration and learning and praying and doing and this is what I'm going to get. This is what I deserve. This is what I'm going to get, a sick baby after I waited 6 years to get married, after so much dating, after so much davening, after so much care. This is what I'm going to, I can't get a sick baby. I'm not doing this. That's not okay. It's not fair. This is not okay. That night we had an appointment. We paid 1,000 shekels to get a 5-minute appointment with the head of Hadassah Haratzofim Hospital, sitting with us. She's looking at all my paperwork. She puts me up on the bed. She does an ultrasound, takes me down, and she says to us, you have to terminate the pregnancy. I said, what do you mean terminate? I'm 7 months pregnant. How do I terminate a pregnancy when I'm 7 months pregnant? Why? Why should I terminate my pregnancy? And she says, your baby's going to be very sick, Devorah. Your baby's going to be really sick. He's going to have holes in his heart, in his brain. You're doing him a disservice by bringing him into this world. You're killing him. And I said, what do you mean terminate the pregnancy? So she explains to me. She says, we inject a needle that big into your stomach, and that will stop the baby's heart, and then we will induce you, and you will deliver the baby. Basically, I'm going to deliver a dead baby, and that was the plan. And my husband says to her, he says, we believe in God. Do you have any other options? And she says, oh, you believe in God? Of course, yes. So why don't you go talk to him? Why are you paying me 1,000 shekels to talk to me? Go talk to him, right? He'll save you. So he said, thank you, and we left, and that night was the end for me. That was an end for me. I took my beautiful siddur, I closed it, I put it away, never to want to look at it again. I said, I am finished. I am done. I'm so done. I walked into my bed, and I didn't walk out for 2 months. I sat there, and I cried from morning to night, depressed, sad, angry. The way they described the baby in my stomach, first of all, the baby had stopped growing. Once a CMV hit the baby, it stopped growing. The baby was no longer growing. The baby was, they explained to me, very, 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 very sick. And I remember feeling like I'm walking around with this like monster in my stomach. That's how it felt like I'm in my body. And I felt like God was punishing me. After everything I did, he was punishing me. A month into my thing, I said to my husband, I want to go to a rabbi. I want to get a blessing. We need to go somewhere. We need to do something. I can't do this. I can't just sit here. So we went to Rav Gamliel Rabinovich, who was a big Makubal in Yerushalayim, and he gave me a bracha. He told us to say a parak of Tehillim together every night before we go to bed, Chaf Aleph. And then we went to Rabbitzin Kanievsky. I have been to her a few times before. I had a very close feeling in my heart to that woman, even though she didn't know who I was. And I waited outside of her office for 4 hours. And I was very angry, edgy, on the edge, no one messed. I was pregnant, I was angry, okay, like that. I needed a drink, basically. Nobody was giving me a drink. So I waited outside of her office, and the ladies come out, and they say, Sagur, we're closed. I said, no, we're not closed. There's no one that's going to tell me that I'm not going into the Rebbitzin. And they said, lady, you can't go inside. And I said, no one's going to tell me I'm not going to go inside. Move out of my way. These like old Bnei Brak Rebbitzins, that live there. They breathe Tehillim. That's what they do from morning to night like that, okay? And I basically took the lady and I pushed her out of my way. I said, get out of my way. And I walked straight into the Rebbitzin. The Rebbitzin was sitting there with somebody. She was sitting there with a woman that was crying. And I remember looking at her, looking up at me, and then looking back at the lady. And then telling one of the ladies there that works with her, she said, give her, they print out these little cards that you should pray on. You should say there are different prayers for different things. She said, give her that and put her in the room. I said, what room? Where are you taking me? What are you doing? I was very angry. What are you doing? And they said, just go into this room. And they gave me this little prayer book, and they put me in this room. And in this room, apparently, this room was the study of the Stipler. The Stipler, her father-in-law, Rav Chaim Kanievsky's father, That was his study. That's where he sat. That was his chair. Okay, there was like a leather office chair there that was torn and ripped and old, and that was where he sat. It was a very big room with fluorescent white lights, a table, a chair, and just sperm along the wall. And they said, the lady that's helping her, she said to me, listen, anyone that sits on this chair and prays, 100% their prayers are answered. Sit here. The Rebbetzin wants to see you, but sit here and pray. I remember sitting on that chair, sitting on the Stifler's chair, it's a big deal. Sitting on this chair and praying and saying what she gave me. I remember praying for one of my very good friends who was barren, and she was married for about 6 years to have a baby. The following week, she got pregnant. It was really, really crazy. I remember having a long time in that office, having a long time in there. And then all of a sudden, the Rebbetzin is calling me. The Rebbetzin called me out. I walk out. She's in the kitchen. Now, have you ever, I don't know if you've ever, they should really film that house because it's something to see, okay? Her kitchen is literally the size of a small two-chair table. Tiny little room, okay? And she's standing there on the side cutting cucumbers for the rabbi.
Laura?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to tell you your time is just about almost up.
No! What? What time is it?
It's 11:18.
Okay, so I'm going to finish with this.
Okay, sorry. Your story is really interesting.
I didn't finish. I'm halfway in the middle, but okay, we'll see. Another time. Thank you. She's cutting cucumbers for the rabbi, and she says to me, and I say to her, this is what Hashem does to people that care about him. This is what Hashem does to people that love him and sacrifice everything. This is what Hashem does to people. I didn't tell you, I didn't get into all of those days and those nights where I was alone in all of it, where I was wearing one uniform skirt for 7-8 months straight and no one knew that I was wearing skirts, one skirt, where I wasn't able to eat anything, where I was always having to find, even if I didn't want to, having a place to go for Chagim, having a place to go for Shabbatot, feeling very, very alone in this whole thing because no one around me really valued what I was doing. They thought I was insane. So it was like right? And so all of those nights of just crying, I remember I had, when I was a little girl, I had a box, someone threw it out, but I had a box and I put all my tissues that I cried to be close to Hashem in that box. Like anytime I cried, Hashem help me. I'm not gonna be able to hold on for much longer. I can't. They're all going out to the mall. They're all going on Shabbos. I can't be in this apartment by myself another minute, right? And I would cry and I would put out my tears into this bucket, into this tissues, into this bucket. So, because I felt like that was my carbon to Hashem. This is my carbon. This is what I got. And so I was sitting there with the Rebbetzin, and she walks up to me. She drops her knife because I'm sitting there and complaining, this is what he does. This is what he does. And she walks up to me, and when she walks up to me, I stood up. And when I stood up, she grabbed my tummy. She picked it up, and she looked me in the eye and she said, "Hayeled hazeh yeh bari v'shalem, tagidi amen." And I said, "Amen." And she said, "Your child will be healthy and strong. Say amen." And now I want you, this minute, to go to my son's house, Rav Kanievsky, her other son. She said, "I want you to go get Rav Chaim's esrog jam from him." On Sukkot, Rav Chaim does his brachos on his jam, on his esrog, and then they turn it into jam, and then it's a segula that while you're delivering your baby, to eat that jam. So I went to his house, I got the jam, I put it in my freezer, and it was the day of, I had to run to the hospital and I forgot the jam. I get to the hospital and I'm pushing, and the nurse says to me, the midwife says to me, "Okay, we're gonna need some help in here. Things start to get complicated. The baby's not breathing. Things are not going." And my neighbor brings in the jam. I start eating the jam the rabbi gave me, and miraculously they were able to get my baby out. They gave me my baby. I didn't know it was my baby. I thought it was my placenta because it was so black. It was black. And I didn't realize it was a baby, and they quickly took him away. And a month later, We had to keep taking him for tests, vision tests, and brain scans, and all of these things. And come back every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks I would come back, and every 2 weeks I would come back, and every 2 weeks they would say, "Not yet, not yet. The symptoms haven't developed yet. Come back in another month. He will get blind soon. He will get retarded soon. This will happen soon." And every time I would come back from my appointments, "Not yet. It's going to happen soon." And after about 2 months of doing this, I said, "My baby is well. My baby is fine." And today, Baruch Hashem, Elisha is 9.5 years old. He's in fourth grade. He's doing really, really amazing. He's a healthy, incredible young boy.